Behind every team, in soccer, or in any other sport for that matter, is a loyal and passionate group of fans. Okay, maybe they aren't always passionate. Regardless, clubs, specifically those in smaller countries, rely on fan support. In return, all fans expect their team to do is try their hardest, respect the city and team's history, and maybe give back to the community. This is the foundation of most sports teams around the world. It begs a question, however. What if a group, specifically a greedy corporation, wished to expand their profits by buying out a soccer team? That sounds fine at first. Team takeovers are common, and at the end of the day, all owners want to make money. But what if these owners trampled on everything fans expect? What if this new ownership group not only changed the name and logo of your club, but actively attempted to erase the long and storied history of the team you care so much for? Well, that is exactly the predicament that RB Salzburg is in, and this is how Red Bull destroyed the soul of a club. In 1933, Austria Salzburg was founded after Hertha Salzburg and Rapid Salzburg merged. In 1926, they were promoted to 1 Klasse, in which they stayed until 1944, when all soccer was halted due to World War II. Records from 1938 to 1944 are poor. After being annexed by Nazi Germany, the Austrian leagues were realigned, and SV Salzburg were placed in the 3rd division. The new system split the 3rd tier into regional leagues, which would play each other in a promotion playoff system. Salzburg finished first 3 times in 6 years, but failed to get promoted. In 1940, no record exists of them going to a promotional playoff, despite topping the league. This is true of the 1941 league as well. They finished second in 1942 and then first again, but failed to win in the promotional playoffs. In 1944, the league was expanded and SV Salzburg, temporarily changed to FG Salzburg, finished 8th. At the end of the season, the league was terminated to the approaching Russian army and the downfall of Hitler's regime. After an uneventful 5 years, Salzburg finished 3rd in their regional league, and in doing so qualified for the Tower Liga, a combination of 2 regional leagues. In 1953, Salzburg topped that league, only losing 1 game and achieved promotion. Their first time in the top flight came to an end in 1957, as they were relegated back to the Tower Liga and failed in the promotional playoffs in 1958. The next year, however, they topped the league and won in the playoffs, ensuring promotion. After dipping in and out of the first league, they nearly won it all in 1971. If Salzburg had capitalized and beaten or tied FC Wacker Innsbruck either time they played them, Salzburg would have been crowned champions. The next decade saw a period of decline, with them even falling back to the 2nd division. They did reach the final of the 1974 Austrian Cup, losing 3-2. In 1991, their first year back in the Austrian Bundesliga since 1985, they finished 6th, then 5th, then 2nd, and 2nd once more. In 1933, at long last, they won the league. During their title-winning season, Austria lined up in a 5-3-2 or a 3-2-3-2. Otto Conrad, a national team player, offered a steady hand in net. They had a sweeper named Herbert Weber, who was also the team captain. He was a national team player who participated in 2 World Cups. Up top was the Austrian Player of the Year, Heimo Pfeifenberger. He scored 12 goals that season in the Bundesliga. Nikolo Jurcevic and Herfried Sabitzer also helped the goal-scoring effort, getting 8 apiece. They followed that season up with more success. Jurcevic and Pfeifenberger continued scoring, getting 14 each. Something else happened in 1994. Salzburg made the final of the UEFA Cup, now the Europa League. After 2 easy wins, Salzburg came back from 2-0 down in the first leg to 3-2 in the second leg, and thus booting Sporting Lisbon from the tournament. All 3 goals are incredible, but the third, scored by Martin Hammerhauser in the 114th minute, was pure class. He volleyed the ball, hitting the crossbar, which evaded the keeper and went in. The next game, they beat Frankfurt 5-4 on penalties. In the semi-final, Karl Roscher were dispatched on away goals, giving Salzburg a spot in the final. Unfortunately for them, Inter Milan won 2-0. Comparing squads, there was no question that Inter were superior, boasting Italian, Uruguayan, and Dutch internationals. One such player was second place in Ballon d'Or voting and Arsenal and Ajax legend Dennis Bergkamp. Salzburg failed to win the league in 1996. In fact, they failed to qualify for Europe. They finished 8th out of 10 teams and were the lowest team not to get relegated. The main reason for this terrible decline was the transfer of Jurcevic to Freiburg in Germany. Somehow, they bounced back in 1997, reclaiming their crown as champions. Pfeifenberger was gone, as was Otto Conrad. Eddie Glider led the team now, scoring 8 league goals. In the years following, Salzburg declined. Not majorly or anything, but they no longer competed for top-flight titles. That was until the announcement on April 6, 2005, that changed Austrian soccer forever. Red Bull, the sports drink company, announced its new ownership of SV Austria Salzburg, now called Red Bull Salzburg. They changed the logo, colors, and entire backroom staff. Alongside this, they claimed that SV and Red Bull were in no way connected, and that this was a new club that had no prior history. They removed all mentions of history from the team website. The Austrian FA did make them add it back, but it is much abridged and now consists of 4 sentences covering 80 years. In the future, I may decide to make a video about RB Salzburg, but according to them, these clubs are not connected, and thus it would not make sense to continue this video. Instead, I will finish the story by discussing the offshoot club SV Austria Salzburg. Starting in the 7th division, they were promoted 4 straight times, finishing first each year. In the 2014-15 season, they were promoted once more into the 2nd division. Sadly, they suffered quick back-to-back relegations. By 2019, they were back in the 3rd division. And while the next seasons were cancelled to the COVID-19 pandemic, they are currently in 2nd and could very well get promoted back to the 2nd flight this year. This is the story of SV Salzburg, the real SV Salzburg. Despite their best efforts, Red Bull failed to kill the very real support for SV. In fact, Red Bull averaged about 8,600 fans in the 5 years before COVID, despite unparalleled domestic success. But SV averaged 11,300 fans from 1992 to 1997. This shows that no amount of money can buy support. A bright spot despite the sad growth of massive corporations buying clubs and trampling over values supporters hold dear. If there's one thing to leave you with, is that no matter what Red Bull do, no one can take away the 2 league titles and UEFA Cup runner-up medals, no matter how much they try to cover them up.